Give me one reason I shouldn't kill you right now. Min-jae's voice was surgical steel wrapped in silk as he pressed the gun against the temple of the man kneeling before him. The dragon tattoo on his neck seemed to writhe in the dim light of the warehouse, alive with menace. Boss, please, I can explain. Explain? Min-jae's laugh was cold. Explain how 3 million won disappeared from accounts meant for a dead man's family. Explain how you let Adeyemi Olumide die in poverty while his money lined your pockets? He cocked the gun. I'm listening. The man's whimper echoed in the empty space. Min-jae's finger tightened on the trigger. One squeeze. That's all it would take to erase this betrayal. His phone buzzed. A message from his head of security. Found something. The Lagos file. You need to see this now. Min-jae lowered the gun with visible effort. You have 24 hours to return everyone you stole. With interest. If you don't, he didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Welcome my wild hearts and truth chasers. If you've been riding with me, you know we don't do happy endings that come easy here. We do love that crosses oceans and breaks empires, where a waitress's 3-finger signal changes everything, where a Nigerian father's sacrifice echoes 15 years later, where a mob boss chooses a woman over his throne. Hit that like button like you're making that signal, committing to the chaos. Subscribe because some debts can only be paid in blood and devotion, and this story takes no prisoners. And smash that notification bell because in Min-jae's world, the dragon protects what it loves. And mercy? Mercy is the most dangerous thing you can show. 10 minutes earlier, across Seoul in the exclusive Azure Moon restaurant, a champagne glass had shattered against marble, crystal shards scattering like diamonds across the private dining room floor. Get out, Min-jae had said to Jisoo, his voice eerily calm. He adjusted the dragon tattoo peeking from his collar. Before I forget, our families have been allies for 3 generations. Jisoo's perfectly manicured hand had trembled against her Hermes clutch. You can't keep postponing the engagement party, Min-jae. Your father can wait. Min-jae's dark eyes had never left the security footage playing on his phone. Grainy images from a Lagos nightclub, 15 years old, showing a tall African man pulling a younger Min-jae from a burning building. Blood stained the man's shirt. Flames consumed everything behind them. The timestamp read, July 2011. I have more important business than playing your fiancé. More important than our family's alliance? Than your position as head of the organization? Jisoo's voice had risen dangerously, her composure cracking. Min-jae had stood abruptly, the dragon tattoo flexing as his jaw clenched. I just discovered someone in my organization has been stealing from me for years, stealing from families under my protection. Families of people who died protecting me. So yes, Jisoo, more important than our arranged marriage. Much more important. He'd walked out, leaving Jisoo alone with her rage and shattered glass, her reflection fracturing in 100 crystal pieces. Now, as Min-jae's car sped through Seoul's nighttime streets, he stared at the photograph his security team had sent. Adeyemi Olumide. The Nigerian man who'd saved his life 15 years ago in Lagos. The man he'd tried to repay with money, protection, a future for his family. The man who died 3 years ago in poverty, in a charity hospital, drowning in his own lungs while his daughter watched helplessly. How? Min-jae growled at his head of security through the phone, his knuckles white around the device. How the hell did this happen? The money was rerouted, boss. Someone with high-level access changed the account numbers, made it look like the transfers were completing successfully when they were actually going somewhere else. It's sophisticated, very sophisticated. Who had that level of access? Still tracking that. But boss, there's something else. Something you need to know. Adeyemi had a daughter. She's here, in Seoul. Min-jae's heart stopped. The car seemed to stop. The entire world seemed to stop. Where? You're not going to believe this. She works at Azure Moon. Has for 3 months. A waitress named Kioma Adeyemi. 20 years old. Nigerian passport. Student visa through her mother's Korean citizenship. The restaurant he'd just left. The place he owned. She'd been right there, probably serving tables in the main dining room while he sat in his private section. And he'd never known. Never seen her. never had the chance to make things right. I'm turning around, now. Have her protected, discreetly. Put 2 men on the restaurant, 2 on her apartment. If someone was willing to steal from her father, they might come after her too. She's evidence. She's a loose end. Min Jae's driver made a sharp U-turn, tires squealing. They were 10 minutes from the restaurant. 10 minutes from the daughter of the man who'd given him everything. 10 minutes from answers he wasn't sure he wanted. Hyoma Adeyemi tied her apron with practiced efficiency, her reflection in the staff room mirror showing a young woman who'd learned to make herself invisible. 20 years old, skin the color of midnight coffee, with her mother's Korean features softened by her father's Nigerian strength. A combination that made strangers stare and employers hesitate. Her eyes were her mother's, almond-shaped, dark, distinctly Korean. But everything else was pure Adeyemi. Table 7 needs water, her manager barked in Korean, barely glancing at her. And move faster. This isn't some cheap restaurant in Lagos where you can take your time. Hyoma bit back the retort burning her throat. She needed this job. The money barely covered her tiny apartment in Itaewon that she shared with 2 other foreign students, but it was survival. In Seoul, survival was victory. Survival was everything. She grabbed the water pitcher, navigating through tables of Seoul's elite. Women dripping Chanel and Dior. Men in custom suits discussing deals worth more than Hyoma would earn in a lifetime. Everyone pretending the astronomical prices were nothing. Azure Moon catered to people for whom money was just a number. Just a way of keeping score. People like the man who'd just walked back through the door. Min Jae moved through the restaurant like he owned it. Because he did. Though Hyoma didn't know that yet. Tall, shoulders stretching his Tom Ford suit. A face that belonged in magazines except for the dangerous edge in his eyes. The kind of handsome that came with a warning label. And the dragon tattoo curving along his neck. Intricate and deliberate. Hyoma's hands went ice cold. The water pitcher nearly slipped from her trembling fingers. She knew that tattoo. Not the design itself, but what it meant. In her father's final days, delirious with fever and failing lungs, he'd drawn it obsessively on napkins, on the backs of medical forms, on anything he could reach. The dragon's son, he'd whispered between labored breaths that sounded like drowning. Find the dragon's son, Min-hee. He'll keep you safe when I'm gone. Her father had died 3 years ago, drowning in fluid his lungs couldn't expel, in a charity hospital in Lagos that smelled of bleach and broken dreams and death. Her mother, Korean-born, Nigerian by choice, had followed 6 months later, her heart simply giving up under the weight of grief. They'd left Hyoma alone in the world with a Korean name she barely used, Min-hee, and a box of letters written in Korean script she'd never learned to read properly. Until now, she'd thought her father's ravings were just fever dreams, the desperate hallucinations of a dying man trying to protect his daughter from a world that had already taken everything from them. Miss, water for, table 7, a customer snapped manicured fingers in her face, the sound sharp and dismissive. Hyoma moved mechanically, filling glasses with shaking hands, her mind racing. The dragon's son. Could it be him? Could her father have actually known this dangerous-looking man with death in his eyes? Min Jae sat in the private section, visible through sheer curtains that cost more than her monthly rent. 3 men flanked him, guards, muscle, whatever they called themselves in this world. But he commanded the space like gravity, commanded planets. His phone rang, and Hyoma watched his expression change completely. "Show me," he said, his voice carrying the kind of authority that made grown men snap to attention. "Show me everything." One of his men produced a tablet, fingers swiping quickly. Even from a distance, even through the curtains, Hyoma could see the photograph on screen. Her breath stopped. Her heart stopped. Everything stopped. It was her father. Younger, stronger, smiling, that wide smile she'd almost forgotten, standing next to a teenage boy with cold eyes and fresh burn scars. Behind them, Lagos sprawled in its chaotic, colourful glory. She recognized the street, the one near their old apartment in Yaba, before things got bad. Min Jae's finger traced her father's face on the screen, and something flickered across his features. Raw grief, regret, pain. Then it vanished like smoke, replaced by ice. Find his family, Min Jae said quietly, dangerously. I don't care what it costs. I don't care how long it takes. Adeyemi saved my life when I was 17. His family was supposed to be protected, provided for. They were supposed to never want for anything. His voice cracked, just slightly, and someone let them suffer. Someone let them die in poverty while money sat in accounts. Find them. Find out what happened. Find everyone responsible. The water pitcher slipped from Kiyoma's hands. It hit the marble floor in an explosion of glass and water, the crash echoing through the restaurant like a gunshot in a library. Conversation stopped mid-sentence. Heads turned. The entire restaurant held its breath. Min Jae's men moved instantly, hands reaching inside jackets toward weapons Kiyoma couldn't see but knew were there. She'd grown up in Lagos. She knew what armed security looked like, but Min Jae just stared at her. Really stared, like he was seeing a ghost. This was insane, completely insane. But her father's voice echoed in her memory, as clear as if he was standing beside her. If you're ever in trouble, Min-hee, make this sign. Only make this sign if you're certain, if you're sure. Because once you make it, everything changes. 3 fingers pressed to the wrist, a gesture that meant nothing to anyone, unless they knew, unless they'd been taught by someone who knew. Kiyoma's hand moved before her brain could stop it, before logic could intervene. 3 fingers pressed against her left wrist as she bowed deeply in apology for the spilled water, the disruption, the chaos she'd caused. The ancient signal, the one her father had taught her when she was 5 years old, making it into a game so she'd remember. If you ever meet the dragon's son, he'd said, show him this. He'll understand. He'll remember. Min Jae's entire body went rigid. The tablet clattered onto the table with a sound like breaking bones. His face drained of color, going pale beneath his tan. Everyone out, he whispered, but somehow the whisper carried more weight than a shout. Boss? The largest man frowned, hand still inside his jacket. Out. Min Jae's roar made glasses shake on tables across the restaurant. Now, all of you, every single person except her. They fled. His men backed out carefully, confused but obedient. Other diners pretended not to watch while watching everything, phones already out, probably filming, definitely gossiping. The manager hovered uncertainly near the kitchen door. Kiyoma stood frozen in a puddle of water and broken glass, her heart trying to break through her ribs, her breath coming in short gasps. Min Jae stood slowly and she realized he was trembling. Actually trembling. This dangerous man with a dragon tattoo and armed guards. Who taught you that? His Korean was perfect, but underneath it was something raw and bleeding and barely controlled. My father. Kiyoma's voice was steadier than she felt, steadier than she had any right to be. Adeyemi Olumide. He said to find the dragon's son. He said you'd keep me safe. The words hit Min Jae like physical blows. He staggered back, gripping the table for support. Adeyemi. God. You're his daughter. He looked up with eyes too bright, too human, too full of pain. You have your mother's eyes. Korean eyes. But everything else is him. You knew him. He saved my life. Min Jae's hand moved to his left shoulder, where burn scars peeked from his collar like twisted memories. I was 17, arrogant, stupid, thought I was invincible. My father sent me to Lagos to learn the business, to understand our international operations. I thought I was untouchable because of my name, because of my family's power. He moved closer, and Kiyoma could see the memories playing across his face like old films. A rival gang found out where I was staying. They burned down the building in the middle of the night, left me to die. The smoke was so thick I couldn't see, couldn't breathe. I was on the ground, knowing I had maybe a minute left before my lungs gave out. Min Jae's voice dropped to something barely audible, and then these hands grabbed me. Strong hands, pulled me through the flames like I weighed nothing. Your father, he was just security at the building. Night shift. He could have run, should have run. The building was coming down, but he came back for me. Went into the fire twice. Once for me, once for the woman on the 3rd floor. Kioma felt tears burning behind her eyes. He never told me, never said a word about Korea, about you, about any of this. He was protecting you from this world, from what I am, what my family is. Min-jae pulled out his phone with shaking hands. When I got back to Seoul, I set up accounts. Millions of won. Enough for your family to live comfortably forever, to honor what he did, to repay a debt I could never actually repay. His jaw clenched so hard she could hear his teeth grind. But the transfers stopped 3 years ago. I've had people searching, trying to find out why, trying to find your family. He died. The words tasted like ash and old grief. Pneumonia, 3 years ago. We couldn't afford the medicine. My mother sold everything. Our furniture, her jewelry, her mother's wedding ring from Korea. But it wasn't enough. The medicine was too expensive. He died in a charity hospital that couldn't even afford proper oxygen, and I held his hand while he drowned in his own lungs. Min-jae's phone shattered against the floor. His fist followed, slamming into the table hard enough to split the wood down the middle. Blood welled from his knuckles, dripping onto the white tablecloth like accusation. I sent millions, he said, his voice vibrating with rage barely contained. Enough for every medicine, every doctor, every treatment he could possibly need. Enough for 10 lifetimes of medical care. We never received anything. Not one won. Not one naira. Nothing. They stared at each other across an abyss of betrayal and stolen futures and lives that should have been saved. Your mother? Min-jae's voice was gentle now, terribly gentle. 6 months after him. The doctors said broken heart, but I think she just couldn't anymore. Couldn't live in a world without him. They'd been together 25 years. Kioma's tears fell freely now, hot on her cheeks. I came to Korea because I had nowhere else. My mother's citizenship got me a student visa, but I can barely afford ramen most days. I work here, sleep in a closet-sized apartment with 2 other girls who steal my food, and just survive. That's all I do. Survive. Min-jae was in front of her suddenly, his hands gentle on her shoulders despite the blood on his knuckles. Do you have somewhere safe tonight? Someone who can protect you? Safe? Kioma almost laughed. I have an apartment in Itaewon where my roommates steal my food and mock my accent and tell me to go back to Africa. Not anymore. He made a call, speaking rapid Korean too fast for her to follow completely. When he finished, his eyes met hers with frightening intensity. Someone stole from you. From your father. From me. That means someone in my organization betrayed me at the highest level. Until I find out who, you're in danger just by existing. You're evidence. You're a witness. You're a loose end they'll want to tie up. I don't need... Yes, you do. Min-jae's voice was steel wrapped in silk. Your father saved my life. That debt transfers to you. The protection I owed him, I now owe you. You're under my protection now. Not as charity, as duty, as honor. Before Kioma could argue, before she could process, heels clicked on marble like gunshots. A woman appeared, tall, elegant, radiating expensive fury like perfume. Jisoo. So this is where you ran to. Jisoo's smile could cut diamonds and draw blood. Her gaze raked over Kioma with open disgust. How exotic. Collecting African strays now, Min-jae. Is this your new hobby? Jisoo, leave. Warning filled Min-jae's voice like poison. I don't think so. Jisoo moved closer, her perfume overwhelming and expensive. 300 guests are waiting for our engagement announcement. The caterers are standing by. My father is making excuses. And you're here playing savior to the help. She's Adeyemi's daughter, Min-jae said quietly, dangerously. The name clearly meant nothing to Jisoo. Should I care about some African nobody? Some waitress who can't even hold a water pitcher properly? Kioma felt the slap of those words. She'd experienced racism before. The stares, the whispers, the casual cruelty of people who thought different meant lesser. But something about Jisoo's dismissal, the way she said African, like it was a disease, cut deeper than anything else. You should care that Adeyemi saved my life when I was 17, Min-jae said, his voice dropping to something dangerous. That I owe him everything. That without him, I'd be dead, and you'd have no fiancé to be angry at. That his daughter is under my protection now and will remain so. Protection? Jisoo laughed, brittle and sharp like breaking glass. You can't postpone our engagement forever. Our families have an agreement. Your position as head of the organization depends on this alliance. Or have you forgotten? Without my family's support, you're just another gangster with delusions of power. My position depends on loyalty and strength. On honor. On protecting the people who protect me. Strength? Jisoo leaned closer, dropping her voice to a whisper that still carried to Kioma. You're showing weakness, getting sentimental over a waitress because of an old debt to a dead man. This isn't like you. Or maybe it is. Maybe you're exactly like your soft-hearted father, and we both know how that ended for him. Min-jae's hand shot out, gripping Jisoo's wrist, not to hurt, but to warn. The dragon tattoo flexed with his tension. Careful, Jisoo. You're one word away from a line you can't uncross. For a moment, fear flickered across Jisoo's perfect face. Real fear. Then she jerked free, smoothing her suit with shaking hands. Fine. Enjoy your little distraction. But remember, distractions are dangerous in our world. Her eyes slid to Kioma, and there was promise there. A promise of violence. Especially fragile ones that break so easily. She left in a cloud of rage and expensive perfume, the restaurant door slamming behind her, hard enough to rattle windows in their frames. Kioma released a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. I should go. I don't want to cause problems between you and your family. Too late. But Min-jae smiled slightly. You're not causing problems. You're revealing them. Exposing rot that's been hidden. And that's exactly what I need. He gestured to the door. Come, I have questions. You need answers. We'll help each other. I don't even know you. You know I loved your father. You know I owe him my life. You know someone in my organization is a traitor. Min-jae's smile turned sharp, predatory. That's more than most people know about me. The rest we'll figure out together. Kioma looked at this dangerous man with a dragon tattoo and blood on his hands and grief in his eyes. Every instinct screamed to run, to get as far from this world as possible. But her father's voice whispered in her memory, Find the dragon's son, he'll keep you safe. So she nodded slowly. Okay, let's go. The penthouse overlooked Seoul like a kingdom of light and glass. Kioma stood by floor-to-ceiling windows, utterly out of place in her stained waitress uniform, watching the city pulse with life below. Here. Min-jae appeared beside her with water. He'd removed his jacket, revealing more of the tattoo, an intricate dragon winding down his shoulder and arm. Each scale was perfect, each claw sharp. You don't drink alcohol? Not usually. My father was Muslim. My mother respected that. She took the glass carefully, trying not to stare at the tattoo. Some habits stick even after faith fades. Min-jae nodded, filing this away like he filed away everything. Tell me about him. The man he was when he wasn't saving stupid Korean teenagers from their own arrogance. So Kioma told him, growing up in Lagos's organized chaos. Her father's gentleness despite his size, 6'4" and built like a wall, but with hands that could braid her hair without pulling. How he'd encouraged her mother to teach her Korean while he taught her Yoruba, creating a daughter who belonged nowhere completely, and everywhere partially. The letters she couldn't read, written in Korean script she'd never learned properly, because her father died before finishing her lessons. Watching her father waste away, each breath harder than the last. Her mother's silent grief that consumed her from the inside out like fire. The desperate journey to Korea on a student visa that barely kept her legal and never made her feel welcome. Min-jae listened without interrupting, his expression unreadable. When she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. I should have tried harder, he finally said. Should have gone to Lagos myself instead of trusting others with something this important. You didn't know. I should have. He stood abruptly, moving to his desk. Someone intercepted the money. Someone close enough to know about the arrangement. Powerful enough to hide it. Smart enough to cover their tracks. He spread photographs across the expensive wood. Her father in Lagos, in Seoul, holding baby Kioma with her shock of black curls. These are from my father's records. Adeyemi worked with us for 3 years. Security consultant. International liaison. But after the fire, he wanted out. Said he had a daughter to protect, a family to raise right. Min Jae's finger traced the photo of baby Kioma, his touch reverent. That was you. Her throat tightened. I never knew he shared me with this part of his life. He was protecting you. Min Jae gathered the photos reverently, like holy relics. The question is, who wanted to hurt him? Who had access to these accounts? Who benefited from his death? He stopped suddenly, his entire body going still. Wait, the timing. The money stopped 3 years ago. That's exactly when my father died, when I took over the organization. He grabbed his phone, making a rapid call in Korean. When he hung up, his face was grim. I need to check something. There's a bedroom. Second door on the right. Lock it. Don't open for anyone but me. Not my men, not the cleaning staff, not anyone. What's happening? I think someone's been stealing from the organization for years. Your father was just one victim among many. The dragon tattoo seemed darker in the dim light. If I'm right, this goes higher than I thought. Much higher. And much more dangerous. He left before she could ask more questions, already pulling up files on his phone. The bedroom was larger than her entire apartment in Itaewon. On the nightstand sat clothes. Expensive, still tagged, in her exact size. A note in Korean script read, I guessed your size. Shower if you need. Rest if you can. Min Jae. The thoughtfulness of it made her chest ache in ways she didn't want to examine. She showered, scrubbing away the restaurant smell and the day's fear, changed into the clothes, designer jeans that fit perfectly, a cashmere sweater soft as clouds. When had he arranged this? He'd been with her since the restaurant. It was nearly midnight when she emerged. Light showed under a door at the hall's end. She should go back to the bedroom. Should mind her business. Instead, she knocked softly. Come in. Min Jae sat surrounded by laptops and papers, sleeves rolled up, the dragon tattoo visible down his entire forearm. He looked exhausted, haunted. Can't sleep? He asked without looking up, fingers still flying across keyboards. Can you? A slight smile. Not until I find the thief, the traitor, the person who stole your father's money and let him die. Kioma sat in the chair across from him, tucking her legs under her. What did you find? A pattern. He turned a laptop toward her, columns of numbers that made her head spin. Money disappearing for 5 years. Small amounts from different accounts, different families. Nothing that would trigger alarms individually. But together? His finger moved down the screen. Millions of one, tens of millions, maybe more. And it all traces back to one person with access to everything. Who? Min Jae's jaw clenched so hard she thought his teeth might crack. Lee Sang-woo, my second in command. The man I trust with my life. Who my father trained personally. Who's been like an uncle to me since I was 8 years old. The betrayal in his voice was raw, bleeding. Kioma wanted to reach across the desk, to offer comfort, but didn't know if she was allowed. If touching Min Jae was something she had permission to do. Are you certain? She asked instead. The evidence is clear. Bank transfers, account numbers, timing. It all leads to him. He's the only person with this level of access besides me. Min Jae leaned back, exhaustion written across his features. What I don't understand is why. Sang-woo has everything. Money, position, respect, power. Why steal? Why betray? Why now? Maybe he wants more. Maybe he's always wanted more. Or maybe he's funding something, building a power base for a coup, preparing to take over. Min Jae's eyes narrowed dangerously. Unless... His phone buzzed with the urgency of an alarm. He answered immediately, listened, went absolutely rigid. When? How many accounts? A pause. His knuckles went white around the phone. I'm on my way. Now. He stood, grabbing his jacket. The dragon tattoo disappeared beneath expensive fabric. Stay here. Don't leave this penthouse for any reason. Not for food, not for anything. You understand? What's wrong? Sang-woo just emptied 3 warehouse accounts. He knows I'm onto him. Min Jae's expression was ice and fury. He's run. and running men are dangerous men. Min-jae. He paused at the door, looking back. In that moment, he looked young and old simultaneously, carrying weight no one should have to carry. Your father saved me once, gave me a second chance at life. I won't waste that gift. I'll keep you safe, Kyoma. I promise you that on everything I am. Then he was gone, leaving Kyoma, alone with the city lights and growing dread. She should have listened, should have stayed locked in the penthouse like Min-jae ordered. But 3 hours passed with no word, no update, no message. And Kyoma's worry grew teeth and claws, and a voice that sounded like her father. Sometimes waiting is just another word for giving up. She'd spent her whole life waiting for her father to get better, waiting for money that never came, waiting for someone else to fix things while she stayed safe and ignorant and useless. Look where it got her family. She left at 3 a.m., taking a taxi to the only place she could think of, the restaurant. Maybe Sang-woo had left traces there. Maybe her manager knew something. Maybe she could find a clue, something to help Min-jae, something to justify the trust her father had placed in the dragon's son. The restaurant was dark, closed for the night, but the back door was ajar, light spilling from the kitchen like an invitation or a warning. Every instinct screamed danger. Kyoma walked through the door anyway. Inside, her manager sat at a prep table counting cash. Stacks and stacks of it. More money than should exist in a legitimate business. And across from him, smoking a cigarette with casual elegance, was Lee Sang-woo himself. Handsome in that refined way wealthy Korean men often were. Silver threading his temples, a smile that probably charmed investors and intimidated rivals in equal measure. That smile turned toward Kyoma as she froze in the doorway. Well, Sang-woo said mildly, stubbing out his cigarette like they were having tea. The daughter returns. How wonderfully convenient. Saves me the trouble of hunting you down. Her manager stood, expression guilty and greedy simultaneously. I'm sorry, Kyoma. Really, I am. But they paid too much to refuse. More money than I'd make in 5 years of running this place. Who paid you? For what? Sang-woo gestured to the chair across from him. Sit down, Miss Adeyemi. We have much to discuss about your father and your unfortunate involvement in matters that should have stayed buried. His hand rested casually near his jacket. Kyoma had seen enough armed men in Lagos to recognize the shape of a gun beneath expensive fabric. She sat slowly, heart hammering. What do you want? Good girl. Practical. Your father was practical too, until sentiment made him stupid. Sang-woo poured tea like they were friends. Your father was a problem for me 15 years ago. Did you know that? He saved Min-jae's life. Yes. Very heroic. Very inconvenient. Sang-woo sipped tea, his movements precise. I'd arranged that fire, you see. Young Min-jae was becoming too influential, too beloved by the lower ranks. The organization needed different leadership, stronger leadership, someone willing to do what was necessary instead of playing at honor and loyalty. Kyoma's stomach turned. You tried to kill him. A 17-year-old boy. Him and his soft-hearted father. Both too weak to do what was necessary. Sang-woo's expression hardened. The organization needed strength, ruthlessness, vision. Not sentimentality about African partners and international cooperation, and treating people like humans instead of resources. So you've been stealing for years, building your own power base. Stealing is such an ugly word. I prefer reallocating resources, preparing for inevitable transition, building support for when the current leadership proves inadequate. He leaned forward. Like your father. I made sure he never received a single one of Min-jae's guilt money. Made sure he died in poverty, drowning in his own lungs, knowing he'd failed his family, his wife, his daughter, everything he worked for gone because he played hero. Rage, white-hot and blinding, surged through Kyoma. She lunged across the table, hands reaching for Sang-woo's throat. But he was ready. He grabbed her wrist, twisting until bone ground against bone, and she cried out, Careful, girl. You're valuable alive as leverage against Min-jae, but I don't need you unharmed. Just breathing. Let her go. The voice came from the kitchen doorway, cold, lethal, promising violence. Min-jae stood there, blood on his collar, the dragon tattoo stark against his pale skin. Behind him, 3 men with guns flanked the exits. Sang-woo didn't release Kyoma's wrist. Instead, he pulled her closer, using her as a shield. The prodigal boss, right on time, as always. So predictable. I said let her go. Min-jae's voice never rose, but somehow that made it more terrifying. Or what? You'll kill me? Sang-woo laughed, the sound echoing off steel counters. We both know you're too soft for that. Too much like your weak father who died begging. My father built this organization on loyalty and honor. You've perverted everything he stood for into something ugly and corrupt. I made it profitable. I made it strong. I did what needed doing while you played at being the good boss. Sang-woo's grip on Kyoma tightened until tears sprang to her eyes. And I'll keep doing it, starting with killing the girl. Let's see if you'll sacrifice her the way you sacrifice everything for this organization. The standoff stretched, tense and terrible. Kyoma could feel Sang-woo's pulse hammering against her wrist, could smell his cologne mixed with cigarette smoke and sweat. Min-jae's eyes met hers across the kitchen. Trust me, they said clearly. So when Sang-woo shifted his grip to pull his gun, when his attention wavered for just a fraction of a second, Kyoma did the only thing she could think of. She dropped her full weight downward, becoming dead weight, breaking his hold through surprise rather than strength. The gunshot was deafening in the enclosed kitchen. For a horrible moment, Kyoma thought she'd been hit, but it was Sang-woo who stumbled backward, clutching his shoulder, blood welling between his fingers like accusation. Min-jae had moved the instant she dropped. Not a kill shot, a precise, professional wound calculated to disable without killing. His men swarmed in with practiced efficiency. Through it all, Min-jae crossed to Kyoma in 3 strides, pulling her up with gentle hands that had just shot a man. Are you hurt? His fingers traced her face, her arms, checking for injuries with surprising tenderness. I'm fine. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have left the penthouse. You led me right to him. Min-jae's smile was grim, satisfied. He'd been hiding all night, covering his tracks, but he couldn't resist following you when you left. Couldn't resist tying up loose ends. You used me as bait. I used every resource I had to end this quickly and minimize casualties. He touched her cheek, brushing away a tear with his thumb. Thank you for trusting me, for dropping when you did. I didn't have much choice. You always have a choice. You chose to trust me. That means more than you know. Sang-woo was dragged away by Min-jae's men still, shouting about making the organization strong, about doing what was necessary. The manager went with him, babbling about debts and pressure, and not knowing who he was really working for. Min-jae handled everything with calm efficiency, the dragon tattoo visible as he gave orders, restructured command, dealt with betrayal. This was his world. Violence and power and control. Could she exist in it? Did she want to? Come on, Min-jae said when the last car pulled away. Let's go home. Home. To his penthouse. Because Kyoma's apartment wasn't safe anymore. In the car, he made calls, restructuring, cutting out anyone who'd shown loyalty to Sang-woo, promoting people who'd stayed true. It was brutal, efficient, exactly what a mob boss should do. When he finished and saw her expression, his own softened. This must shock you. The violence. The casual way I deal with betrayal. I grew up in Lagos. I've seen violence, poverty, corruption that makes yours look amateur. Not like this. Not this personal. Not people you thought you could trust. Kyoma thought of her father dying while stolen money sat in accounts, of her mother giving up. It's all personal. That's what Sang-woo didn't understand. You can't separate business from people. It's all people in the end. Min-jae reached across the seat, taking her hand. His palm was warm, calloused. Your father taught me that. He said, in the end, we're all just trying to protect the people we love. Everything else is noise. Everything else is just distraction from what matters. He was right. He usually was. Min-jae's thumb traced circles on her wrist, right where she'd made the signal. I'm transferring the money to you tomorrow. Everything Sang-woo stole, plus interest compounded over 3 years. It's yours. Your father's legacy. I don't want it. Kyoma. I want justice. I want my father's name cleared. I want people to know he was a good man who saved lives and helped people. She met Minjai's eyes. The money is just noise, like you said. Minjai's expression shifted. Surprise, respect, something softer and more dangerous. You really are his daughter. Stubborn and idealistic in the best possible way. They arrived as dawn broke over Seoul, painting the city in shades of gold and pink. Kyoma was exhausted, running on adrenaline and stubbornness. She stood by the windows, watching the city wake. Min-jae joined her, close enough she could feel his warmth. You should rest, he said quietly. So should you. I have work. The organization will survive a few hours without you micromanaging. She turned to face him. When did you last really sleep? More than an hour at a time. Min-jae's smile was rueful. Define sleep. More than an hour without planning revenge or restructuring your criminal empire. Then, a while. A long while. Kyoma crossed to him, suddenly bold with exhaustion. Sit. Kyoma, please, sit down. He sat on the couch, confusion written across his features. She settled beside him, close enough their shoulders touched. Tell me about the tattoo, she said, gesturing to the dragon visible at his collar. Not the official story. The real one. Min-jae glanced at the ink. My father gave it to me when I became head of the family. Took 3 sessions, 8 hours each. Hurt like hell. He smiled slightly. It represents power, but also wisdom. Protection. The responsibility to use strength for good instead of just destruction. To be the dragon that guards, not the dragon that devours. Did it work? Some days better than others. He met her eyes. Today was a good day. Today I protected you. That's what the dragon is supposed to do. Silence fell between them, comfortable despite everything. Outside, Seoul bustled to life. Inside, 2 people who should have been strangers sat connected by violence and loyalty, and something neither wanted to name yet. I have to cancel the engagement, Min-jae said suddenly. To Jisoo. It was arranged for political reasons, to unite families. But I can't marry someone I don't trust. Someone who'd look at you the way she did. What will happen to your position? There'll be challenges. Other families will see it as weakness. He turned to her. But I'd rather be strong alone than weak with the wrong person. Your father taught me that too. He said, loyalty to the wrong person is just slow betrayal of yourself. He had a lot of wisdom for a man who died in poverty. He had you. That's all the wisdom anyone really needs. Knowing what matters, what's worth protecting. The words hung between them, heavy with meaning. Kyoma knew she should pull back. Remember this man was a criminal. But he'd also been the boy her father saved. The man who'd searched for her. The person who looked at her like she mattered more than power. What happens now? She asked softly. Min-jae's hand cupped her face with surprising gentleness. Now I rebuild, clean out the corruption. And you do whatever you want. School, travel. Leave Korea if that's what you need. You're free. And if I want to stay? His breath caught. Then you stay. In your world, with all the violence and danger. In whatever world you want to build, I'll adapt to you. Kyoma laughed despite everything. A mob boss adapting to a waitress. That's quite a reversal. You're not just a waitress. You're Adeyemi's daughter. That makes you royalty in my world. The sincerity in his voice undid her. She leaned forward, resting her forehead against his. I don't know how to do this. Any of this. Neither do I. His hand slid into her hair. But we can figure it out together. One day at a time. People will talk. Jisoo will be furious. Let them talk. Let her rage. Your father saved my life. I'm not wasting it on people who can't see what matters. They kissed then. Soft, tentative, uncertain, perfect in its imperfection. When they pulled apart, Min-jae was smiling. Actually, smiling, the expression transforming his usually cold features. My father would have liked you, Kyoma said. I hope so. I owe him everything. My life, my purpose, and now you. He'd say you don't owe him anything. That's what love is. Giving without expecting payment. Minjai's expression went serious. Is that what this is? Love? 24 hours ago, Kiyoma had been a waitress with no prospects. Now she sat with a mob boss who looked at her like she hung the moon. It was insane. Impossible. It felt right. I don't know yet, she admitted honestly, but I think it could be, given time. Then we have time. Minjai pulled her close. All the time you need. Outside, Seoul sparkled with morning light. Inside, Kiyoma relaxed for the first time in years. She was safe. She was seen. She was home. The weeks that followed brought controlled chaos. Minjai announced the broken engagement at a family meeting that involved shouting, threats, and his uncle throwing a chair through a window. Jisoo was eerily calm throughout, which worried Kiyoma more than anger would have. She's planning something, Kiyoma said one evening, watching news coverage of the scandal. Minjai barely glanced up from his work. Let her plan. Aren't you worried? I'm concerned about 15 managers who requested transfers, suppliers who want renegotiated contracts, the police commissioner who suddenly started investigating our businesses. He tossed his pen down in frustration. Ending the engagement destabilized everything, just like she knew it would. Kiyoma moved behind him, hands settling on his tense shoulders. Do you regret it? No, never. Not for a second. Even if it costs you everything you've built? Minjai pulled her into his lap with easy strength. You are everything. The rest is just details and temporary problems. Romantic, bankruptcy, and hostile takeovers are just details. Exactly. He kissed her nose. Besides, your father didn't raise a quitter. He didn't raise you at all. No, but he saved me. Taught me through example what matters. His expression grew distant. I was arrogant before the fire. Thought I was invincible. Then I was trapped, certain I'd die, and this stranger risked everything for me. He was like that, always helping even when it hurt him. I want to be like that. His hand traced her spine. You make me want to be better than I am. You are better. You're just also a criminal with questionable business practices. He laughed genuinely. Fair assessment. They were still laughing when the penthouse door opened without warning. Jisoo walked in, flanked by two large men. Dressed in funeral black, hair perfect, smile sharp enough to draw blood. How domestic, Jisoo purred, disgust clear in every syllable. The mighty Minjai, brought low by a Nigerian waitress, almost poetic in its tragedy. Minjai stood smoothly, moving Kiyoma behind him with practiced ease. You need to leave. Now. I don't think so. I've been having interesting conversations with your organization, with the families you've alienated through your little quest for true love. She stepped closer, madness glinting beneath her polish. They're ready for new leadership. Strong leadership that understands alliances matter more than sentiment. You're planning a coup. I'm planning a correction to a mistake. You've made us weak, Minjai. Soft and sentimental, just like your father. Jisoo's smile widened, showing too many teeth. And we both know what happened to him when weakness became liability. The implication hung toxic in the air. Minjai went absolutely still, the kind of stillness that preceded violence. What did you just say? Your father's heart attack. So sudden, so convenient, happening right before he could fully transfer power. Jisoo examined her perfect nails. Almost like someone ensured he'd die before you were ready, before you could consolidate properly. You killed him. The words came out strangled, disbelieving despite the evidence. I helped him along to his inevitable end. He was going to name you successor at 25. Too young, too soft, too influenced by his outdated ideals. Better to remove him. Let things flounder. Then step in as savior with proper backing. She gestured around the penthouse. It would have worked perfectly if you hadn't been surprisingly competent. Then this African trash distracted you from what really mattered. Kiyoma felt Minjai tense, felt rage building in him like a tsunami. She grabbed his arm hard. She wants you to attack. Don't give her the excuse. Listen to your pet, Jisoo cooed with false sweetness. She's smarter than she looks, though that's not saying much. Get out, Minjai said, his voice barely human, vibrating with suppressed violence. Get out, Minjai said, voice barely human. before I forget our families have been bound together for decades, and do something we'll both regret. Family? Jisoo laughed, brittle. You gave up our alliance when you chose her over me, over everything we were supposed to build together. You chose wrong, Minjae. Now you'll pay for it with everything you have. She left in a cloud of threat and expensive perfume, her guards following. Minjae stood frozen, breathing harsh and irregular. She admitted to murder, to killing my father, patricide. And we have no proof beyond our word, no witnesses except us. I'll find proof. I'll tear apart every record, every moment of that day. Minjae. Kioma forced him to look at her. We need to be smart, strategic. Going after her directly gives her ammunition, proves her point about you being emotional. She killed my father. I know, and we'll make her pay for it, but not by playing her game on her terms. She cupped his face. My father used to say, revenge is a dish best served with preparation. We prepare, we plan, we win. His eyes cleared slowly, focus returning. You're right. She wants me emotional, wants me to make mistakes. He pulled Kioma close. Thank you for being clear when I can't be. They spent the next week gathering evidence, calling in favors, reaching out to allies. Kioma watched him work, saw the strategist beneath the emotion, the leader who'd built loyalty through genuine competence. She also saw the toll. Less sleep, less food, driving himself with frightening intensity. You need rest, she said at 3 a.m., finding him surrounded by files. Can't. Jisoo's moving faster than expected. Already has 3 families on her side. And you have 5 families plus everyone who actually works for you instead of just using you. She pulled him up firmly. Come to bed. You're no good to anyone exhausted and making mistakes. Kioma. Bed. Now. That's not a request. His smile was tired but genuine. When did you get so bossy? Someone has to be when you're being self-destructive. She led him to the bedroom, pushed him down. Sleep. I'll wake you if anything urgent happens. He pulled her close immediately, face buried in her hair. I love you, he murmured, half asleep already. In case I don't survive this, I needed you to know. Her heart stopped, restarted at double speed. You're not dying. I absolutely forbid it. So bossy, he repeated, but there was warmth in it. I love you too, she whispered to his sleeping form. That's why you're not allowed to die. That's an order. She was still awake when his phone buzzed. A text from unknown. The warehouse. 1 hour. Come alone or she dies screaming. Below, an image of Kioma sleeping in Minjae's bed, taken through the window with a telephoto lens. Her blood ran cold. Someone had been watching them, photographing them through the windows. She thought about waking Minjae, but he was finally resting, finally peaceful after days of relentless work. So she did the stupid, brave thing love made people do. She went alone, leaving only a note she hoped he'd find in time. The warehouse in Incheon loomed. Rusted metal, broken windows, industrial decay. The kind of place bad things happened. Inside, Jisoo waited. Designer clothes now rumpled, hair disheveled, mascara smudged like war paint. She looked unhinged, beautiful, and terrible. You came, Jisoo said, sounding almost surprised. I thought you'd be smarter. Thought you'd send Minjae. You threatened me. What choice did I have? You could have sent him, let him walk into a trap, saved yourself. Jisoo circled her like a predator. But you came yourself. Such noble sacrifice. How romantic. Why am I here, Jisoo? Leverage. Minjae's been rallying support, turning my allies against me with his tragic backstory. But if I have you... She pulled a gun smoothly. He'll do anything. Give up anything. Destroy himself to save you. He'll kill you first. He'll try, and he might succeed. He's always been surprisingly capable when properly motivated, but not before I take you with me. Jisoo's smile was inhuman. I loved him since childhood, you see. Built my entire life around becoming his wife, his equal, his partner. And you waltz in with your sob story and exotic foreignness, and suddenly I'm nothing. Replaceable. That's not my fault. I didn't ask for any of this. Isn't it? Jisoo's finger moved to the trigger. Everything was fine until you appeared with your stupid signal and your dead father. Minjae was going to marry me. I would have been queen, but you ruined everything with your mere existence. Minjae was never going to love you, arranged marriage or not. Love. Jisoo spat the word like poison. Love is for weak people who don't understand power. Control is what matters. Fear. Respect. And I'm taking it all back, starting with removing you from the equation permanently. The gunshot was deafening in the enclosed space. Kiyomi braced for pain, for darkness, for the end. But it didn't come. Instead, Jisoo stumbled backward, the gun falling from her hand with a clatter. Blood bloomed across her white shirt like a terrible flower. Behind her, Minjae stood in the warehouse entrance, gun smoking, expression absolutely terrible in its calm. The dragon tattoo stark against his skin. You're right about one thing, he said, voice dead calm. Love is for weak people. Lucky for Kiyomi, I'm pathetically, dangerously weak when it comes to her. Jisoo collapsed, and Minjae's men swarmed in from hidden positions, securing the scene with practiced efficiency. Minjae crossed to Kiyomi in 3 strides, hands running over her frantically. Are you hurt? Did she touch you? I told you to stay home, Kiyomi said weakly, and I told you I'd keep you safe. He pulled her against his chest, and she felt him shaking. When I found your note, when I realized what you'd done, I thought I'd lost you before I really had you. I had to come. She would have killed me anyway, eventually. I know. Doesn't mean I have to like your martyr complex. He kissed her forehead, cheeks, mouth with desperate relief. Never again, promise me. Only if you promise the same. No more solo heroics. Deal. We're a team now. Partners. Jisoo was rushed to hospital under heavy guard, facing charges that would keep her locked away for decades. The families who'd supported her scrambled to distance themselves. Minjae's position solidified overnight. Turned out, shooting your father's business partner's daughter to save your girlfriend was exactly the kind of decisive action organized crime respected. I'm apparently a hero now, Minjae said dryly a week later, reading internal reports. Saving you proved I'm strong enough to lead and make hard choices. How very romantic. Violence as a leadership quality assessment. Welcome to my world. A month passed. Life settled into something almost normal, if normal included armed guards and occasional death threats. Kiyomi enrolled in university, studying business and economics. If I'm dating a mob boss, I should understand what he actually does. Does this mean you're staying long term? Minjae had asked, hope clear in his voice. For now, we'll see how it goes. One day at a time. But they both knew she wasn't leaving. She'd found something in Seoul she'd never had. A place that felt like home. I have something for you, Minjae said one evening, producing a worn box. Inside were letters, old, yellowed, in her father's careful handwriting. How did you... Her voice broke completely. Found them in Sang-woo's personal safe. He'd stolen them as insurance, kept them as trophies. They're yours now, your father's words to you. She opened the first with trembling hands. My dearest Min-hee, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I'm sorry for the secrets, for the dangerous world I touched. But I'm not sorry for saving Minjae. That boy has potential. Kindness beneath hardness. Honor beneath ambition. If you ever meet him, know he'll protect you. Not because he owes me, but because that's who he is at his core. Be brave, my daughter. Be kind. Be yourself always. Love always. Your father. She read through tears, all 15 letters. Letters of hope, regret, fierce pride. Letters showing he'd known he was dying, had been preparing her even as he faded. The last one, dated a week before his death. Min-hee, writing from my hospital bed. Death earns you some drama, I suppose. I have no regrets about my life. I lived fully. Loved your mother with everything I had. Got to see you grow into someone remarkable. Saved a boy who I believe will change his corner of the world, or at least make it less dark. Find him if you can. Find Minjae. He'll help you survive and thrive. More than that, I think you'll help each other become who you're meant to be. The world is bigger than Lagos or Seoul, bigger than the boxes people want to put us in. You're Nigerian and Korean, African and Asian, strong and gentle, fierce and kind. Don't let anyone make you choose. Don't let anyone diminish you. Be everything you are, unapologetically. I love you, my girl, always and forever. Dad. When she finished, she was sobbing, so hard she couldn't breathe properly. Min-jae held her, his own eyes suspiciously bright. He knew, she gasped between sobs. He knew we'd find each other, planned it somehow from his deathbed. He was an incredibly wise man. He was crazy. Who sets up their daughter with a mob boss through cryptic letters and hand signals? A man who trusted his instincts about people absolutely. Min-jae wiped her tears gently. He was right. About me. About you. About us together being stronger than separate. She looked at him. This man who'd become her entire world. What happens now? What's our future? Now we live. We build something better. We honor your father by being the people he believed we could be. You make it sound so simple. It is simple at its core. Love, loyalty, family. Everything else is just noise and complications. She kissed him, pouring grief and joy and hope into it. When they pulled apart, Seoul glittered with promise below them. One more thing. He pulled out another box, a necklace with a delicate dragon pendant. It matches your tattoo perfectly. It's a promise that I'll protect you the way your father protected me, that I'll be the man he believed I could be. He fastened it around her neck, fingers lingering on her skin, that I'll love you for as long as you'll let me, however long that is. That might be forever. I'm absolutely counting on it. 6 months later, Kiyoma stood in the same restaurant where she'd first seen Min-jae. But she owned it now, his gift, transformed into a vibrant fusion restaurant celebrating Nigerian and Korean cuisine, staffed by immigrants needing chances. The jollof rice is still too spicy for Korean taste, her Korean chef complained. Then don't eat it, she shot back in flawless Korean. The Nigerian customers love it exactly as it is, and they're the ones I'm serving. Min-jae, at his permanent corner table, laughed. He came every single week, ordering too much, leaving tips that made her staff blush. You're scaring the customers, she said, sitting across from him. The dragon tattoo was visible, drawing stares. Good. Keeps out the riffraff and the competition. You are the riffraff. The biggest riffraff of all. Extremely fair point. He took her hand. How's business really going? Good. Really good. We're breaking even at month 6, which is apparently miraculous. I could invest additional capital? No. Absolutely not. This is mine. Legitimate and separate. Our children are going to have the most confusing family tree in Seoul. She froze mid-sip. Children? His expression turned vulnerable. Eventually. Maybe. Possibly. If you want them. With me. Are you proposing something specific here? Not yet. I'm testing the waters. Gauging interest in the concept. Test more clearly. Be direct. Kiyoma Adeyemi. Will you maybe, possibly someday consider spending the rest of your life with a reformed criminal who loves you more than his own life and would burn the entire world down to keep you safe? It wasn't smooth. It wasn't poetic. It was perfect. Yes, she said through happy tears. To all of it. The maybe. The possibly. The someday. All of it. His smile could have lit all of Seoul. He stood, pulling her up, kissing her while customers definitely filmed for social media. Let them film. Let them post. Let the world know the head of the Kim organization had fallen completely for a Nigerian waitress. Love didn't care about their opinions or their prejudices. Later, at the penthouse, she stood by the windows wearing her dragon necklace. Min-jae wrapped his arms around her waist, tattoo visible in their reflection. Do you think he'd approve? She asked softly. My father. Of us. Of everything. I think he orchestrated it from beyond the grave with those letters and that signal. That's genuinely terrifying if true. That's love. He kissed her temple. Terrifying and wonderful, and worth every impossible odd. Below, Seoul pulsed, with millions of stories, millions of people finding their way through darkness toward light. Kioma knew her father was smiling somewhere. She'd found the dragon's son, found her home, found herself in the last place she'd ever expected. Everything else was just noise. Beautiful, complicated, meaningful noise she wouldn't change for anything in the world. From a chance encounter in a restaurant to finding home in the most dangerous place. Kioma and Minjae's story proves that sometimes love finds you in the chaos. If this story made you feel something, if you believed in second chances, father-daughter bonds, or love that crosses every boundary, show it by smashing that like button. Subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss our next Afro-Korean romance story. And here's my question for you. Would you have made that signal? Would you have trusted a dangerous stranger because your dying father told you to? Drop your answer in the comments. I read every single one. What choice would you have made at the warehouse? Run, stay, trust? Tell me below. Thank you for watching, and remember, the bravest love stories always start with the most impossible choices. See you in the next one.